Hello, Ambassador, and thank you for joining us. Today we'll be presenting a brief overview of how cryptocurrency is reshaping modern society economically, socially, and politically. Cryptocurrency is no longer a fringe experiment. According to Littrow, Klofstad, and Yuczynski's 2024 national survey, nearly 30% of Americans have owned crypto at some point. As adoption accelerates, crypto directly challenges traditional banking, disrupts payment systems, and raises questions for financial stability, regulation, and even environmental justice. Our briefing will outline the opportunities and the risks. We will discuss how cryptocurrency can innovate global payments and expand financial access, but also how it can facilitate crime, undermine monetary policy, and reproduce social inequalities. By the end, we hope to give you a clear sense of the strategic landscape the U.S. must navigate moving into the next decade.
Let's begin with how cryptocurrency challenges the traditional financial system. Aquilina and colleagues at the Bank for International Settlements explain that crypto and decentralized finance now replicate core banking functions like lending, investment, and payments without relying on banks at all. Instead, these services run on blockchain networks and smart contracts, bypassing intermediaries and reducing transaction friction globally. However, this shift introduces major instability. Aquilina warned about crypto isolation, where countries become dependent on private digital currencies instead of their own. This undermines domestic monetary policy, especially in emerging economies. Kayani and Hassan further show that banks in the US and UK are under pressure to adapt, for example, by experimenting with blockchain settlements or rethinking their role in payment verification. Together, these studies show that crypto destabilizes the traditional hierarchy of financial power while forcing banks and regulators to evolve quickly.
Cryptocurrency also transforms markets. Corbett, Lucy, Urquhart, and Yaravaya found that crypto behaves fundamentally different from traditional assets. It's highly volatile, influenced by social sentiment, and often disconnected from macroeconomic fundamentals. At the same time, markets benefit from crypto's speed and global accessibility. Transactions that once required multiple intermediaries can now clear in minutes. This has huge implications for international payments, remittances, and digital commerce. Muslim's 2024 study highlights how this innovation complicates monetary policy. Because crypto exists outside government control, it weakens traditional tools like interest rate adjustments and money supply management. Central banks worldwide, including the U.S. Federal Reserve, are now exploring central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, to remain competitive and prevent losing control of the financial system. In short, crypto increases efficiency but destabilizes the economic systems that governments rely on.
Now, let's look at the associated risks. Foley, Carlson, and Putin's paper from 2019 estimate that a large share of Bitcoin activity is tied to illegal markets due to anonymity and the lack of centralized oversight. This presents enormous challenges for law enforcement and national security, particularly around money laundering and illicit finance. But risks extend beyond crime. Howson and DeVries' paper from 2022 document how crypto mining drives massive energy consumption, producing carbon emissions comparable to some nation states. They argue that this burden falls disproportionately on low-income regions where miners exploit weak regulations and cheap power. Finally, there are also social dynamics. Littrell et al. Shows that U.S. crypto users tend to have anti-authoritarian attitudes, higher conspiracy belief, and a greater reliance on non-traditional information sources. MacLean's paper from 2025 adds that crypto culture often reproduces masculinist and exclusionary dynamics, framing regulation as paternalistic control. So, behind the technology are real social, political, and environmental forces shaping public adoption and resistance.
Given these opportunities and challenges, what should U.S. policymakers do? First, the U.S. must develop clear and coordinated regulation. As Aquilina et al. Warned, fragmented oversight increases instability and allows risks like leverage, speculation, and cyber failures to spill into the broader economy. Second, environmental standards must be addressed. Mining bans are often ineffective alone, but coordinated regulations such as energy reporting requirements or renewable usage mandates can reduce environmental harm. Third, the U.S. should continue exploring CBDCs. A digital dollar can preserve monetary sovereignty, improve payment speed, and compete with private cryptocurrencies without sacrificing stability. And finally, any policy must consider social dynamics, including distrust of institutions, gendered narratives, and misinformation, which deeply influence public engagement with crypto. If the U.S. embraces innovation while proactively addressing risks, cryptocurrency could strengthen, rather than destabilize, our financial and social systems.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your time. Cryptocurrency has the potential to reshape finance, markets, and society, but it is neither purely disruptive nor purely beneficial. Its future will depend on whether the U.S. can craft thoughtful, inclusive, and forward-looking policies. We hope this briefing helps guide that work.